Hi there, I'm Evan Finch, a journeyman electrician with Power-Tek Group, and today we're going to be talking about the 1507 insulation tester. We're going to perform a few tests to show you how to use it with different applications, and hopefully today you'll learn a few things about it and can take that and use it on practical applications in the workplace. So we're going to talk a little bit about the 1507 insulation tester here and functions and how everything works with all buttons and how to connect your leads. So we'll start with connecting our leads. We got our black lead, which is always going to be our common, which is right in the center there. I've got the alligator clip on there right now, but it also comes with a probe that you can do touch testing with. But for the most part, we're going to be clipping it onto conductors, so the alligator clips the way there. And we have our red lead here, which has got our, this is the one that's for sending the output voltage to test the actual wire. So it's a bit thicker in gauge, and it only plugs in a certain way. And I also got the alligator clip on that. If you remove that, you can see it's got a probe that you can also touch. And it also has a test button on there, which does the exact same thing as this test button. It's just preference of where the meter is located or where your lead's located, what in a certain application, what works best for testing. So, now that our leads are plugged in, we can start by turning it on, and I'll show you each function and how it works. So if we turn this over to voltage, you can also see there's a little blue battery symbol there. So if we press the blue button, it will show you that the battery is good. So yeah, we have good battery. And then we'll turn up to ohms, and you press the blue button again. You can see there's a little, it says 0 right there. So we press that, that actually zeroes the meter, gives you a more accurate reading before you take a measurement. And then from here on down, you got your 1000, 500, 250, 150 volt range. So we'll turn it to 1000 volt to do our test. A lot of cable that we use is 1000 volt rated, so we'd be using that one for the most time. And that covers the rotary dial. So we'll start with the buttons here. Your PI/R button, that changes your index or your measuring time ratio. So PI stands for polarized index, and that's a 10-minute time ratio. It's a bit of a longer test. DAR is a 1-minute time ratio, so that's a much shorter test than the most common one that we use. And then whenever you're doing a reading, and that minute is counting down, you can press the lock button. That'll lock your value on the screen so it doesn't disappear once the test is done. And that covers the meter and how to connect it. And then now I'll show you guys how to verify your leads to confirm that they are good. So what we do is we short them together. And what I should get when I press or test is it's a direct short, so it should be 0 megohms. Yeah, and we got our value of 0. And press test again, and now we know the light is gone, so we can disconnect, and we know our leads are good and we're ready to test. So for this test, we're going to show you how to use the ohms reading on the 1507 insulation tester using a 381 multimeter. So I'll set the multimeter to volts DC. I'm going to set this to ohms, and we'll press test. So what we have is greater than 22 kilo ohms. So this meter is only can only read up to 22 kilo ohms, and then anything over that will show greater than. And this is a 1 mega ohm resistance meter, so this makes sense that it'd be showing greater than 22 kilo ohms. And then what I'll do is we'll test the insulation of this. Since this is a 1 mega ohm resistance meter, this is within the range of our 1507 insulation testers. So if we're going to try a DAR test on this, a VAR test, it should give us a reading within range. So we'll switch our lead over to insulation. Turn this back to volts DC. Turn it up to 1000. Press our I/dar button until we get dar at the top. Turn on our backlight so you guys can see that on the camera. And we're gonna press test. So on the screen you can see we got our 1 minute countdown here for our test, and then we're sending 1034 volts DC through, which you can see on the meter there, it's reading that. And we have our 1 meg ohm resistance, which is perfect. It shows that our meter is working the way it should. Note the red light is on, so we don't want to be touching anything. When that's on, that's sending the voltage through, so if you happen to touch that, you get a shock. It would be very nice. There we go, so now it's gone, the light's gone, that means it's discharged, we're safe to disconnect. And that's how you test. So today we'll start with a tech cable. Since we have one on hand here, so we thought this would be a good practical example. To do this, we'll start with safety. To do this safely, you want to make sure that the other end of the cable, when you're doing a cable test, is always isolated and safe. Not making contact with any equipment or anything at all. You just want it to be isolated, taped off, or rented off. And on this end, you have a nice stripped inch or so of wire where you can use the alligator leads on the meter to clip onto that to make good contact. So the test we're going to be going over today, I'll show you. We're going to be using a touch test with this, which is the big test button on the meter. You can hold it down and for as many amount of time you want, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, usually is the amount of time we do that for. And we'll also show you the DAR test, which is dielectric absorption ratio, which is a 1 minute time ratio, which is, there's also a polarized index ratio, which is the 10-minute test. Certain specs would ask you to do a longer insulation test, but today we'll just focus on the DAR test and the touch test. So for this Megger test, we are using a damaged wire to show you what a fail would look like on the 1507 insulation tester. So what I've done is I've skinned off some of the insulation on the red wire, and I've wrapped my ground wire around the damaged spot. And I've connected my common lead to that ground wire and my red positive lead to the red wire. And now we'll perform the test. Turn my meter on to 1000 volts with a artillery dial. Turn the backlight on, and then we'll change our setting to DAR, which is our 1 minute time ratio tests. And then when I press test here, you'll see that the red light will come on, and the number 1 is going to pop up, and that's your count. That's your 1 minute countdown. So in that time, we're not going to touch anything because there's going to be the voltage going through the red wire, and then on the black it'll be measuring what's coming back, and that's how the meter sees what the resistance value is. So here we go. And as you can see, with the making contact on the damaged wire, we've got a reading of 0.9 mega ohms, which is for sure a fail. You would want to see anything over 2 mega ohms would be a good reading. The higher the value, the better. So you can see in the bottom corner, we've got a 1, that's our time ratio. So in a minute's time, that's going to hit 0, and then this red light will turn off. That indicates that the test is complete and you are safe to touch and disconnect the leads. In this corner, you can see there's 1148 volts DC coming through the wire, testing the insulation. And yeah, that's why you don't want to touch that ever. So, there we go. Now it's all done. The light's gone off. And that's definitely a fail. So on the next take, what we're going to do is I'm going to test a good wire that has no damage, and we'll show you our readings. So So for this demonstration on the 1507 installation tester, I am going to do a touch test and show you a wire that's not damaged and ways to test to make sure between phase and phase, phase and ground. And in this application, we're using the Tek cable, so we'll also check the outer jacket just to make sure there's no leakage or damage on the wires. So I've already got my leads connected to the ground and the blue conductor. We know the blue is in good shape, it's not skinned. So we'll turn this on to 1000 volts. So I'll click on my backlight so you guys can see there. And to do a touch test, you can either use the button on the lead down here. There's a button where you can momentarily press it. You can see it comes on, and you release, and then it turns it off. Or you can use the actual button here. In this case, I will because it's easier to reach. So here we go. We got greater than 11 gigaohms, so that's excellent. You can see no problems there. When you release, now it's safe, the light's off, so I can disconnect. Now we'll check our blue wire between our jacket. So I'm going to click that onto the jacket. And we'll do keep clear, do a touch test. And again, we have greater than 11 gigaohms. And that's the maximum this meter will read, so we know we're good again. And then for the final test, I'll test between phase and phase. So I'll test between our blue and our black conductor. Here we go. Test. And again, greater than 11 gigaohms. So that verifies that there's no leakage between phase to phase, phase to ground, and phase and jacket in this application. That concludes our tests for today on the 1507 installation tester. I hope you guys learned a little bit from this video and can take some of what you've learned and use it in the field. I know I for sure have learned quite a bit about this tool, and I'm super pumped that you have an opportunity to use it.